What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the show. Okay, so I want to show you this video clip. This was a forum that Representative Larson was hosting, and he's talking about Social Security. He's talking about the big, beautiful bill, Medicaid, SNAP, all of that good stuff. So I want to show you this clip. Now, I'm not going to be able to show you the whole clip because it's like a 50-minute clip. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up, and we'll watch the first half today, and then we'll watch the rest of it maybe tomorrow or the next day. So that's what we're going to focus on in this video. But first off, you guys can do me a favor. Please like the video. And if you're watching this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, this is Representative Larson. Here we go.
First, I'm here to introduce, and I'm honored to introduce Congressman John Larson. Congressman Larson saw a lot of the challenges ahead, especially with Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, but specifically Social Security. He has been a champion for the longevity, figuring the best way to preserve Social Security so it benefits not only us, but our children and grandchildren. And he has been fiery and really passionate about this cause for a very long time. But under this current administration, it has become an absolute it's broken. It's completely going. I mean, the fact is that Social Security is in danger of a quick death.
Okay, so I just want to stop right here. Just anytime I hear people talking about Social Security in this way, I have to correct it. And so she almost wanted to say it's going bankrupt. She almost said that, and then she went to it's dying a quick death or something like that. She was saying, basically, those words can be construed as Social Security is not going to be here. It's going to die, and that is not the truth. And anytime I hear politicians, I don't care what side of the aisle they're on, if they're talking like this, that is not what's going on when it comes to Social Security. What's going on when it comes to Social Security? You have trust funds. It's about $2.6 trillion sitting in these trust funds. And then you also have FICA. You have the contributions, a payroll contribution that people are paying every paycheck. 6.2%, you contribute, your employer matches the 6.2%. That money goes over to the trust funds, and then it helps pay out benefits. The only problem with FICA right now is FICA is it's not enough money coming from FICA to pay out benefits right now for people who are receiving benefits at 100%. That's the problem. And so they're slowly pulling a little bit from the trust fund. So they're taking FICA, all of the FICA money, so 100% of the FICA money, and then they're taking a little bit more money from the trust funds. And they're saying in about 8 years, the trust funds will be completely depleted. We'll still have FICA, but we won't have the trust funds anymore. And so when we're looking at FICA, FICA is only going to be able to pay out at a certain rate. So, and they're saying it'd be about a 23% cut. So FICA will be able to pay out 77% of the benefits that are currently out there, and we're no longer going to have that trust fund that I was talking about. So anytime I hear anyone say that Social Security is going bankrupt, or they're, like as she stated, Social Security is dying a quick death or however she said it, I have to correct that. Because what we don't want is we don't want people to start believing that Social Security will not be there for them. And you have millennials, you have younger people that are looking at Social Security and they're believing that Social Security won't be there for them. And those people who are working right now, they might say, well, why are we paying into FICA if we're not even going to get Social Security? Why don't we put it in some type of private investments? And that's what some politicians want to do. They want to take the money that comes from FICA and put it into some type of private investment. So anytime I hear that, I just want to correct it. But let's go ahead and continue. Here we go.
I think it's because I'm not sure actually why, but I will.
And this is dangerous. You just heard what she said. I'm not sure why it is, going to die a quick death. So she's putting out information, and then she's saying, oh, I don't even know the reason why this is going to happen. So if you don't know the reason why, don't put out information like that because it misleads people.
Say that if you haven't heard Congressman Larson challenging DOJ on the cuts to the agency staff that that was being made, you should. It was April 28th, 7th, something like that, I think.
Like I was having a stroke?
Yeah, pretty much. And challenge.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead because she talks a little bit more. I want to hear what Representative Larson has to say. But he referred to the time that he was on the House floor and he paused for a period of time. And I did a video back then. People were concerned. He looks like he's fine now. He's been fine ever since. But let's skip forward a little bit.
The mayor of West Hartford does. And thank you so much for being here. And all the members of the council and the Board of Education, and I know members of the General Assembly, as my dear friend and former Senate President and Senate President Pro Tem, Kevin Sullivan knows. Of course, this is the end of the session, so they're pretty busy as well. And we do a number of town halls, as we call these, and meetings in a variety of ways. This is my favorite. I would rather see people face to face because I think that's the way you learn the most and get to hear from them directly. So what the goal is tonight is normally we had scheduled this and we were going to do a discussion about Social Security and preserving and saving that and why it's so vitally important now and in the future. But a funny thing happened on the way to the event. Over the last several weeks, we spent far too much time debating both in the Committee on Ways and Means, which is in charge of taxation, and then on the floor of the House. But we spent that time after midnight debating and then ultimately, unfortunately, passing a budget. There is, if you had to use one word to describe the budget that the House just passed, it can be summed up in one word: cruel. And I think when the American public gets all the facts, I think they will overwhelmingly agree. Now, the bill has passed the House, and I'm going to spend a little time on process. I know that a lot of people yawn when you say process, but it is important that we understand the process and why they decided to vote after midnight. And that's largely because the public isn't watching then. But ultimately, the public is aware and will become aware because I think a number of members will be holding town halls, teletown halls, all kinds. I've been on in several different districts with colleagues as well, what we would call frontline colleagues, talking about both the budget and also the reform that's needed to Social Security, and also putting a halt to what they're attempting to do. We're also very fortunate tonight that we have, Commissioner Andrea Barton Reeves, who's here, as well as Jennifer Cavallero, State Operations Director, because for Mosaic, right here out of West Hartford, so that it's one thing for me to talk about things. It's another thing to understand the impact that it's going to have directly on the state and the communities here. And then after that, what we'll do is open it up to questions that you have. And any difficult ones I'll give to the commissioners or my staff. So we'll be able to handle that pretty easily. But first, from a process standpoint, the way that this bill started has to go through the Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over all taxation. And instead of having a normal public hearing process over time, you may have heard about the one big beautiful bill. Hardly what I think most people would describe it after they read it, but nonetheless, that was the message that our colleagues on the other side have placed on it. But if it was so beautiful, why were they taking it up after midnight? And I think the reason becomes pretty clear when you go through these posters. And the reason I said the one word is cruel, you can cut through everything and it comes down to this. If you're creating a budget that is going to reward billionaires with tax cuts. Now, there's nothing wrong with tax cuts. We could have worked together on tax cuts that would have been beneficial to all Americans. Now, our colleagues will tell you that, well, no, everybody gets a tax cut under this proposal. In fact, they do, except that 70% of it goes to the nation's wealthiest 1%. That's not fair by any measure. But I want you to keep that thought in mind, that here it is, the purpose of this. If you go back to 2017, when Trump passed his first tax bill, he takes great pride in that, and that's his legacy. And at that time, the same thing. People at the top were rewarded. Other people got tax benefits, but not nearly as much. I think if you can read any of the charts over here, you'll see that in this one, a millionaire would get something like $89,000, and a person earning $50,000 and less gets something like 72 cents a week. And that's hardly fair, and especially in post-COVID and this inflationary period, who's hurt the most and who needs the most relief? I think the people at the very top are going to be able to persevere through all of this, but it's the families, the working families that are struggling, that need our help and support and relief, and Democrats were prepared to do that. And Rich Neal, from Springfield, we put forward an amendment, and the amendment was very simple and clear. We're for the same tax cuts, except here's what we think should happen. We think that billionaires should go back to the same rate that they were paying under, let's say Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Now, why do I mention Bill Clinton? Well, because that was the last president that both balanced the budget and reduce the national debt. By saying reduce the national debt, not having a national debt. Barack Obama was able to drop that national debt. The tax cut of 2017, because it was not paid for, increased the national debt, as does this tax cut as well. But what stings and hurts the most is how they pay for it. And they pay for it by cutting the nutritional program for the nation. Now, you've all probably heard of SNAP, but sometimes when I'm at Augie and Ray's and I'm talking about SNAP, they look at me, what are you talking about? When you say we're talking about the essential nutrition that the elderly, that the disabled, that veterans and children receive, has had the largest cut ever in the history of the country. A far cry from the wealthiest nation in the world, the greatest nation in the world, wanting to provide tax cuts for billionaires at the expense of kids going to school hungry? There is no other way to describe that than cruel. And the other pay for, which Republicans have tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act because, oh, God forbid that we provide health insurance for individuals. And in this case, 14 million, actually 13.7 million people will lose their health insurance coverage in this inflationary time. And people that are fortunate enough to hold on to it will see their prices rise as if they don't have enough to contend with during this time. And again, why? What were the decisions that have to be made? Now, we could have provided a tax cut. Does this sound fair to you? Take the tax cut on the very wealthy, and again, that's people earning over $750,000. Raise your hand if you're making over 750. All right. Raise your hand if you're making over 400,000. You know, funny thing, Kev, you'll appreciate this. Every audience I've been in, no one has ever raised their hand except once in my hometown in East Hartford. And I knew the guy. And he raised his hand proudly. And I went like, "You're making over 400,000?" He said, "No, but it felt good to raise my hand." And I can understand that, but I think you get the picture here. So what we said is that everybody 400,000 and below should receive a tax cut that's proportionately fair to deal with this post-COVID, global post-COVID inflationary period. And the wealthiest recipients should go back to pre-2017 or just let that bill lapse, because it lapses in 2025. Go back to the rate that they were paying then. None of them were in bad shape back then either. And some would argue they weren't even paying their fair share then, but that would pay for all of those tax cuts. Doesn't that seem more fair? People earning 400,000 and less getting a tax cut proportionately delivered for those who need it most. But I think it's a fairer way to do it.
Now, and what he's really talking about here, when we're talking about raising the, for the top bracket, raising that tax, raising the taxes up, it's like less than 2%. So we're not talking about a huge number here. But if you were able to, and I don't know, Congressional Budget Office would have to look at this in order to say if this would work. But if you were to raise that for the wealthier individuals, it would help with a tax cut for people making less than 400,000. I think most people, because most people are in that category, making less than 400,000. And so I think the vast majority of American people say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Because when you start really digging into Medicaid and SNAP, and you dig into some of these programs, especially at this time, and he made that made the reference to the fact that we're looking at inflation. Well, if you start digging into these programs and people have to start paying more when it comes to Medicaid, or they lose their Medicaid coverage altogether, first off, they're going to be in dire straits. But also family members. So, let's say you have a family member that is currently receiving Medicaid, or you have, they might not live with you. They might be living somewhere else. But of course, you're going to help your family. So now that's going to draw on you. That means you're going to have to be paying out more money in situations like that. SNAP is the same way. So it's not just going to affect that person. It can also impact the family members that are there. And you might be looking at this right now and saying, well, this is not going to impact me. So I don't really care. But you're not thinking about some people in your family that might be impacted by losing Medicaid or by having to pay more when it comes to the premiums for Medicaid or what have you. So that's what's important. And so I'm going to stop it right here. I will play some more of this. I didn't realize, I just looked down, this is like a 50-minute video. So we're already 17 minutes in. And so what I'll do is I will do another video and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But he is kind of, walking us through this whole process and how they got to where they are when it comes to Congress voting on this big, beautiful bill. And we already knew that it was going to favor the wealthy, but he's given us a little bit more insight. And then understand this too, when it comes to helping the middle class, the working class and the poor, some of the tax cuts, like tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, that is temporary. Okay, it has a sunset date. It's only 3 years. And so when we're looking at the 2017 tax cuts, that they want to make that permanent. So we were talking about that top bracket, bringing it down, or actually keeping it where it is right now and not having it go up. Because if they do nothing right now, the 2025 is the expiration date for the 2017 tax cuts. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make those 2017 tax cuts permanent. And if they make them permanent, then the taxes won't change for the top, the wealthy individuals. But if they do nothing or they can't pass this bill for whatever reason, then that tax rate will go back up to, a little less than 2% for those wealthy individuals. So this is where we are right now. I mean, it's unfortunate. We'll have to see what the Senate does, and we still have time. I mean, and I'm sure he'll go into this later, but the House passed it, but the Senate has to pass something, and the Senate wants to create their own bill. And if they're creating their own bill, then they're going to have some different opinions about some of the different stuff. We already know that there's some senators right now, and make no mistake, this is a reconciliation bill. And what that means is Republicans are trying to pass this with just a majority vote. So they just need the majority in the House, which is always, they just need the majority in the House. And when it comes to the Senate, usually you need 60 votes. They only need a majority now. So they only need 50 votes, really. And so, because they'll have the vice president to break the tie if they need to do that. So all they need are 50 votes. Now, you do have some senators already, Republican senators, that have come out and said that they're not in favor of the big, beautiful bill that was passed in the House. And so we'll have to see how they work that out, because they can work it out in the Senate, pass it in the Senate, but then they send it back to the House, and the House might not be able to pass it just because of some of the, I mean, they narrowly passed it in the House. It was only by one vote. So we'll have to see how that all turns out. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of this town hall. I thought it was pretty interesting. And in the next video, hopefully we'll be able to get to some of the Q&A. I like to hear from the audience what they have to say about Social Security, what they have to say about the big, beautiful bill and all of that. So we'll dive into that next video. But if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. I definitely want to get your impact on this. Talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.